for life.
Hello and welcome. My name is Valerie Burke and I'm the Assistant Dean for Graduate Student Services, and I am thrilled to welcome you to our 9th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3-minute thesis competition. The 3-minute thesis, or 3MT competition model, was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. It spread to other universities in Australia and New Zealand in 2009 and 2010. By 2011, the 3MT competition phenomenon had spread around the globe, and now more than 600 universities from more than 65 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held our first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam. And this year is our 9th annual Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are, what they study, why they study it, how they study it, what they have found or expect to find, and how it matters to an audience of folks who are mostly outside their field. It is an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills and to polish one's elevator speech describing what they study as graduate students. It is worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus and from a wide range of disciplines. Some are first-year students, some are in their final year. Some slammers are master's students and others are advanced doctoral candidates. It is a diverse pool of 80 graduate students competing here this week. So today we have a group of UNLV graduate students who have been randomly assigned to compete in this preliminary session. Each will present their research in 3 minutes or less using just one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over the 3 minutes, they will be eliminated from the competition. Slammers are encouraged to pace themselves and use their 3 minutes without going over. It's not easy, but it's what the 3MT is all about. So slammers, please make sure to keep your microphone on mute and your video off when other competitors are presenting. Only turn on your microphone and video when you are presenting. Please be sure to stay for the entire session, even after you are done presenting. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat in between presenters and refrain from using the chat during while anybody else is presenting, as it can be distracting. You may sit or stand while presenting. You may also wear a mask while presenting. Judges will not penalize you for doing so. You only have 2 minutes and 59 seconds and 1 chance to compete. And please keep an eye on the timer in the bottom left corner of your screen. Once you begin speaking, we will start the timer and you will not be able to restart unless something beyond your control occurs. If you're presenting and your dog barks in the background, just keep presenting. Please don't stop unless I stop you. Don't worry though, if you lose Wi-Fi or you get disconnected, please just join back in. We'll wait a minute for you and then go on to the next presenter. If that happens, you can redo your presentation at the end. And please remember that you may not read your presentation or use any notes on your screen or in front of you. Now, let's turn our attention to the scoring for this Research Rumble. The judges will be assessing the competitors based on metrics which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas: comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor. Judges will not penalize competitors for wearing masks to present or for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of the presentations, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each grad slammer and announce the winners right here live. The top 3 in this session will advance to the semifinals. I'd like to note that this round of the competition is happening live in WebEx and will be simultaneously aired live on the Graduate College's YouTube channel. And to give you a sense of this year's competition, 80 students are competing in this preliminary round. Around 36 will move on to the semifinals, and only about 9 will advance to the finals at 4 p.m. on this Friday, November 4th. So without further ado, let me introduce the judges, and then we will get on with our 3MT Research Rumble. We have a set of very distinguished judges in today's session, and let me introduce them. First, we have Dr. Andrew Andres from Life Sciences, Dr. Lisa Ben-Dixon from Educational Psychology, Carol Wada from Global Education Initiatives, Dr. Janet Dufek from Faculty Affairs, and Deonera Gayotioti from the Office of Admissions. Welcome and thank you for serving on our distinguished panel of judges today. So we are ready to begin the competition. Our first presenter is Vanna.
I am here. Hello.
Great. Oh, I see you. Video's working perfectly. Mana Azizultani?
Yeah, Mana Aziz Sultani. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's okay.
Pretty good. Mana will be presenting on using machine learning to predict booking cancellations. Mana is a PhD student in hospitality administration with advisor Dr. Ashok Singh. I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Valerie. I won't even go into the introduction since she was very kind enough to introduce me to everybody. So my background, I'm doing my PhD in hospitality. My background is actually in statistics, so specifically machine learning. And so this is my bread and butter, is putting machine learning with hospitality. And in this case, what we're looking at is bookings. But let me back up for a second. So machine learning is one of those things that's a buzzword in basically any discipline. Doesn't matter whether it's, I don't know, medical or sociology or even in my case hospitality. In fact, it's so big in hospitality that um, 1/4 of the service jobs in the United States are set to be automated by the next in the next decade. And so now going into what we look at specifically is bookings and in particular cancellations. So the issue with bookings in hotels is, let's say you're a hotel manager, right? And someone comes in and they book their room, and then last minute you get a cancellation. So what does that mean for you? Well, that's a loss because a room is a good that, well, if it's not filled, it's gonna go empty, and that's a loss. It's an opportunity loss. And so what you can try to do as a hotel manager is, okay, well, you can overbook the room, which is what airlines do, or you can just go and take the room at the last minute and lower the price and take less revenue. Both options are suitable, but um, what if some data nerd like myself came in and told you, okay, well, we can write a program that can predict your booking, can predict cancellation with about 80% accuracy. And so that's what I do. Um, I ran like 5 different models: a neural network, SVM, random forest. These are just different black box statistical models where I was able to actually predict the accuracy of a book. I was able to predict a cancellation in a booking with about 85% accuracy on average. And so this has major implications because, well, we're solving the problems of booking. We are helping hotel managers increase their revenue and decrease their loss. And so I believe that about 40% of on the books loss is actually from cancellations and bookings. And so this would have huge implications in the hotel industry and as well would have scientific implications in theory because we are using new methods that have not been in the research stream as we up to this point. And so thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Um, and I hope to be able to present again next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear some music and we'll give our judges about 60 seconds to score in between each slammer. So you'll hear the music now. Hello, Lucas. Let's see if your video is working. I see Lucas. Okay, so our next presenter is Lucas Graff, who will be presenting on why is the squad on the quad, predictors of police presence in college campuses. Lucas is a doctoral student in higher education with advisor Dr. Frederick. No, I will now turn it over to you, Lucas.
So ever since 1894, when Yale officially hired their first two police officers, campus police have grown to resemble local law enforcement with the same rights and responsibilities, including the ability to make arrests and carry firearms. In fact, between 2005 and 2012, the number of full-time campus police grew faster at 16% than student enrollment at 11%. In response to police brutality, students at the University of Minnesota and 44 other institutions began circulating petitions to basically end police presence on campus and end partnerships with local law enforcement. Research shows, or recently, researchers have begun exploring how educational institutions advance the carceral state, which is basically where educational institutions promote the criminalization, surveillance, and discipline of students, staff, and faculty. Research also shows that Black undergraduate men feel disproportionately targeted by campus police, which can steer students away from campus police and the university itself. So this study, we examined the correlates of campus police presence across space and over time. We used data from the Survey of Campus Law Enforcement Agencies by the Bureau of Justice, enrollment and campus characteristics from iPads, as well as data reported in the Clery Act to look at campus crime. And we basically did two sets of analysis. So the first set of analysis was used, we did a cross-sectional analysis to determine whether police presence was correlated with institutional characteristics, student enrollment, and campus crime across a set of institutions in 2005 and 2012. Second, we conducted a longitudinal analysis to determine whether police presence or the change in police presence we're basically in this one, we regressed the change in campus police from 2005 to 2012 on the change in student enrollment and campus crime between 2005 and 2011, 2005 and 2010, and so forth. We did find significant results that police presence may be associated with student enrollment. However, the share of enrollment demographics was pretty much the same, which indicates the change in campus police may be responding to variables outside of this study. And in fact, just this year, the University of Minnesota, in response to crime in neighboring communities, has decided to increase the number of police officers as well as reinstate partnerships with local law enforcement that were severed in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will give a minute to our judges. see Natasha on video. Hello, Natasha. Our next slammer is Natasha Suzenko, who will be presenting on pathogens in low Earth orbit, antimicrobial resistance of Klebsiella strains isolated from the International Space Station. Natasha is a master's student in biological sciences, specifically microbiology, with advisors Dr. Brian Hedlund and Dwayne Moser. I will now turn it over to you, Natasha.
Hi, everyone. So when you think about the International Space Station and spaceflight in general, you probably think of the physiological effects on humans. But studies have shown that not only does spaceflight weaken human immune systems, but it also increases the virulence potential and antimicrobial resistance of bacteria. So obviously, these two factors, when combined, are of great concern to NASA. So NASA has been monitoring the surface microbiome of the ISS for many years now. So this is what we call the microbiome of the built environment, the surfaces around us, so hospitals, schools. So every time we touch an object in our environment, we are transferring microbiomes, right? So from our microbiome to the surface and vice versa, and so on for everyone who interacts with a surface in that environment. So astronauts from all over the world, they add to the ISS microbiome, and then they take it home with them over their 3 to 6 month stays. So in this process of monitoring, NASA discovered that there are some very prominent biosafety level 2 opportunistic pathogens in the surface microbiome. So particularly my bug of interest, Klebsiella pneumoniae. So for my work, they isolated 2 strains, so a less virulent one. So you can see on the left here, A was isolated from the foot panel of the exercise bikes that astronauts have to use for 2 hours a day. And then a more virulent strain was isolated from the wall panel above the toilet. So thank its microgravity, they have to brace. So as a quick primer, Klebsiella pneumoniae, it's a very common bacteria in our microbiomes, in the microbiome of the environment, such as soil. It's not always pathogenic, but when it becomes more pathogenic, it's associated with higher biofilm formation. So biofilms are sticky matrices of substances that are excreted by bacteria. It helps them adhere to surfaces, so like a table or a lung if you're ill. But it's also associated with antimicrobial resistance because they're also protective structures. So that ties to my thesis project's big question, right? So how do these pathogens on the ISS respond to disinfectants used on the station? So to clean the ISS, astronauts use wipes containing quaternary ammonium compounds. They're very safe and effective and commonly used on Earth. They work by disrupting cell membranes, which causes them to lyse or pop, and that makes them die. So when we looked at them under the microscope, you can see on the left, the less virulent strain, they pop, they lysed, but the more virulent strain does not. Instead, it forms these clumps. And so we wanted to look into what's going on because it seems like the more virulent strain has some sort of response that's an adaptation. And so for more on that, you'll have to come to my defense in the spring, but it involves lots of things like minimum territory concentrations, viability qPCR, lots of fluorescent microscopy, and a transcriptome study to look at expression of biofilm genes. Thank you.
Thank you. And now off to our judges. Okay, we are ready for our next slammer. Froho?
Yes,
Did I pronounce that right?
yes,
Great. Okay, so Froho Ascarciahui.
that's right.
Thank you. Okay, so Froho will be presenting on plantar contact area in persons with diabetes. Froho is a doctoral student in mechanical engineering with advisors Dr. Trabia and Dr. Dufek. I will now turn it over to you.
Different parts of the foot contact the floor during the different phases of stance. Normally, the foot first rotates around the heel, followed by the ankle joint and the metatarsal heads and hallux. In persons with diabetes, there is joint mobility restrictions at the first metatarsophalangeal joint and at the ankle joint. As a result of these structural changes in the foot, there's an assumption that there is going to be higher loading of the forefoot, and also because there are changes in plantar tissue characteristics. Overall, there is an assumption that the plantar support changes in area and location in diabetic populations. In our experiments, we have used metallurgic insoles to measure the plantar contact area across our experimental groups, which includes people with prediabetes, diabetes, and diabetes with neuropathy. As a next step, we will evaluate the plantar contact area across these groups to see if the plantar contact area changes in various groups of people with diabetes. And we hypothesize that in the diabetic group, because the foot has to adapt to higher pressure at the forefoot, we hypothesize that there must be an increase in the plantar contact area. Also, we hypothesize that because of the changes, because of the variations in gait in people with diabetes and diabetes with neuropathy, there must be a reduction in the duration of the mid-stance phase. Overall, we believe that assessment of plantar contact area can be used as a diagnostic tool and can be used as a disease management tool for the diabetic populations. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now turn over to our judges.
Well, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I was just saying, I think we're ready to return. We had a few slammers move sessions, so we only had 4 for this session. And let's see. We want to thank you all so much for joining us for our preliminary rounds. A special thank you to the Grad Academy team who made this 3MT event possible. Now, just stay tuned. We'll announce the winners live in just a few minutes. While only the top 3 winners of this round will progress to the semifinals, you will all be winners of a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt. You can get yours during the Rebel Grad Slam finals reception on Friday. I think I will go back to the music while we tally the top 3. Is that right, Nav?
Yes.
Yes, great, thanks. Hello and welcome back. Now, a reminder, while only the top 3 winners of this round will progress to the semifinals, you will all be winners of a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt. You can get yours during the Rebel Grad Slam finals reception on Friday. For the preliminary rounds, we will have a first, second, and third place. Third place winner will receive $100. Second place winner will receive a $200 scholarship, and the first place winner will receive a $300 scholarship. Are you ready? I am going to announce the winners of this preliminary session. And in third place, we have Mana Azaltani. In second place, Natasha Suzenko. And in first place, Lucas Graff. Congratulations to all of our slammers and congratulations to our 3 winners. Thank you again for all your participation, and please join us for the semifinal rounds on Thursday. So it's tomorrow, November 3rd. There's going to be 3 rounds, one at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1:30. And all 3 will be held in the Student Union Philip Cohen Theater. And then the finals will be held on Friday, November 4th at 4 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. And a reminder, we'll have your Rebel Grad Slam t-shirts there at the finals reception, which begins at 5 in the Greenspun lobby. We ask that you please RSVP I will put the RSVP in the chat. So judges, slammers, everyone who can see this in the chat, please feel free to RSVP for Friday's finals and reception. And thank you to our judges. Thank you to our slammers. If you have any questions, go ahead and let the Grad Academy team know. We'll hang on for a second here and have a great afternoon.
Hello and welcome. My name is Vinay Daurakchan. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at the UNLV Graduate College, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to our 9th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3-minute thesis competition. The 3-minute thesis, or 3MT competition model, was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. It spread to other universities in Australia and New Zealand in 2009 and 2010. By 2011, the 3MT competition phenomena had spread around the globe, and now more than 600 universities from more than 65 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held its first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam, and this year is our 9th Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are, what they study, why they study it, how they study it, what they found or expect to find, and why it matters to an audience of folks who are mostly outside their field. It is an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills and to polish one's elevator speech describing why they study or what they study as graduate students. It's worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus and from a wide range of disciplines. Some are first-year students, some are in their final year, some are slammers, some slammers are master's students, and others are advanced doctoral candidates. It's a diverse pool of 80 graduate students competing here this week. So today we have a group of UNLV graduate students who have been randomly assigned to compete in this preliminary session. Each will present their research in 3 minutes or less using one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over 3 minutes, they will be eliminated from the competition. Slammers are encouraged to pace themselves and use their 3 minutes without going over. It's not easy, but it's what the 3MT is all about. Slammers, please make sure to keep your microphone on mute and video off when other competitors are presenting. Only turn on your microphone and video when you are presenting. Please be sure to stay for the entire session, even after you are done presenting. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat in between presenters. Please don't use the chat during anyone's presentation as it may be distracting. You may sit or stand while presenting. You may also wear a mask while presenting. Judges will not penalize you for doing so. You only have 2 minutes and 59 seconds and 1 chance to compete. And please keep an eye on the timer in the bottom left corner of your screen. Once you begin speaking, we will start the timer and you will not be able to restart unless something beyond your control occurs. If you are presenting and your dog barks in the background, just keep presenting. Please don't stop unless I stop you. Don't worry though, if you lose Wi-Fi or are disconnected, please just join back in. We'll wait a minute for you and then go on to the next presenter. If that happens, you can redo your presentation at the end. And please remember that you may not read your presentation or use any notes on your screen or in front of you. Now, let's turn our attention to the scoring for this Research Rumble. The judges will be assessing the competitors based on metrics which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas: comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor. Judges will not penalize competitors for wearing masks to present or for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of the presentations, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each grad slammer and announce the winners right here live. The top 3 in this session will advance to the semifinals. I'd like to note that this round of the competition is happening live in WebEx and will be simultaneously aired live on the Graduate College's YouTube channel. And to give you a sense of this year's competition, 80 students are competing in the preliminary rounds. Around 36 will move on to the semifinals, and only about 9 will advance to the finals at 4 p.m. on Friday, November 4. So without further ado, let me introduce the judges, and then we'll get on with our 3MT Research Rumble. We have a set of very distinguished judges in today's session. Eileen McGarry from Career Services, Jenna Weglars-Ward from the College of Education, Han Fen-Hu from the Lee Business School, Alexis Kennedy from the Greenspun College of Urban Affairs, Jennifer Stevens from the College of Liberal Arts, and Ala Kiko from the College of Sciences. Welcome and thank you for serving on our distinguished panel of judges today. So we're ready to begin the competition. Our first is Warren Forbes with the effect of concussion and sex on lower extremity function during a cutting task. Warren is in the PhD program in interdisciplinary health sciences, working with Dr. Janet Dufek. Go ahead, Warren.
The CDC estimates up to 3.8 million concussions occur annually in the US. A large percentage of those are sports-related concussions, and these can bring about not only several short-term negative symptoms, as shown in the top left here, such as headaches or dizziness, for example, but recent literature has shown that in the long term, even after the athlete is cleared and passes concussion protocols, they are still at up to a 3 times greater risk for lower extremity musculoskeletal injury compared to healthy athletes. A lower extremity injury is defined as one to the hip, knee, or ankle joint. And if an athlete suffers a lower extremity injury, this can be devastating. Just imagine going through a traumatizing injury like a concussion, being cleared to return to your sport, only to suffer another injury, like an ACL tear, for example. This can be detrimental to the athlete's health, well-being, and quality of life down the line. Now, the actual mechanisms and causes for this phenomenon is currently unknown. It is theorized that subtle decrements in neuromuscular control may persist beyond return to play protocols that persist into when they return to the sport. Neuromuscular control is a fancy term that describes how the body functions during coordinated movement tasks. And these decrements may be exacerbated during high impact tasks like landing or cutting, which are seen in a lot of sports. It is further theorized that sex may also play a role in injury risk. In our study, we seek to further examine these two theories. The purpose of our study was to analyze differences between sex and concussion history on lower extremity biomechanics during a cutting task. So we had 2 groups, a previously concussed group and a healthy athlete control group, that each perform a cutting task to the left and to the right. For our analysis, we use our motion capture technology, as well as force plates to measure joint angles of lower extremity and forces that are often associated with injury risk. Comparisons were made between groups as well as between sex. And the results showed that females in the concussion group landed with increased knee abduction during landing. Knee abduction is when the knees collapse inward, and this can be problematic, especially during a high-speed task like a cut, for example, because it places a lot of stress on the inner part of the knee and can greatly increase injury risk. Therefore, results of our study suggest that females may exhibit mechanics that may place them at a greater risk for injury. And thus, coaches, trainers, and practitioners in the field should take the results of the study in mind when rehabbing female athletes with a concussion history as to best prevent future injury.
Thank you, and now we'll give our judges a minute to score. Our next presenter is Karen Tidgwell with Ensuring Supplemental Academic Assistance for Elementary-Aged Highly Mobile Military Children. Karen is a Doctor of Public Policy student, and she is working with Dr. Michael Bruner. Go ahead, Karen.
4 schools in 4 different states by the time she's entering the 4th grade. That's my daughter's story, and as far as military kids are concerned, it's really not unique. In fact, the average military kid is going to move 6 to 9 times between kindergarten and the 12th grade, losing up to 3 months of learning every single move. Left unaddressed, these education gaps, places where a kid just doesn't learn a specific concept or skill because they change schools, well, they can compound and even make it difficult for these kids to graduate from high school. The Department of Defense has been focusing on improving military kids' high school graduation rates, but they are a symptom of a problem that's happening much earlier for these kids. And so my research is shifting the focus from the end of the academic timeline you see on your screen to the beginning. Learning lost in elementary school is the foundational stuff upon which everything else in a kid's academic career is built. 7 of every 10 military kids are 11 years old or younger, making it especially important for us to focus on this elementary population. You see on your screen there 2 rows of puzzle pieces. That top row, that's what education is supposed to look like, and what it does look like in individual states for kids who aren't moving. But that bottom row, that's what a military kid's education looks like. You see repetition, different order, pieces missing all together. Military kids require supplemental learning to fill in these gaps, but it can't rely solely on their current school to make up for another state, because the reality is states differ, not only in what they teach, but how and when they teach it. Any possible solution to this problem has to be available to all military kids, regardless of where they live or the type of school they attend. And the Department of Defense plays a critical role in all of this, because our active duty service members continue to report that one of their top 5 concerns for being on active duty is they're worried about their kids' education. And simply put, our national security is dependent in part on our all volunteer military. The good news is supplemental online learning platforms that can help, they exist already. In fact, many of them grew out of the pandemic. And right now I'm examining which of these platforms just might help best meet these kids' needs. And then how do we most effectively get these tools into the hands of our military families? Hopefully, fingers crossed, by next summer, I'll be in Washington getting buy-in for this recommendation. You know, being a military kid, it's hard. It's hard socially and it's hard emotionally. And because it's so hard in those ways, it really shouldn't be so hard on these kids academically too.
Thank you, and now we'll give the judges a minute to score. Our next presenter is Joseph Yoon Sub Kim with sign-on bonuses for new hospitality employees, effects on existing employees. Joseph is in the Hotel Administration Master's Program. Go ahead, Joseph.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joseph Kim, and my research topic is how sign-on bonuses for new hospitality employees affect existing employees. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic affected the hospitality industry the hardest, as businesses and companies shut down and also furloughed off their employees in April 2020. Within a year, the unemployment rate was at its highest in US history at 14.7%, and employment decline was down to 7.7 million or 47%. As the economy started to recover, there was a major labor shortage in the hospitality industry, and companies started to attract new employees by offering a sign-on bonus. Research on sign-on bonuses in the hospitality industry was lacking, and it is a new trend adopted after the pandemic. Thus, I've come up with 3 hypotheses on my research in how sign-on bonuses affect new employees, affect the existing employees. 1, sign-on bonuses for new employees have a negative impact on existing employees' perceived fairness. Number 2, the bonuses have a negative impact on existing employees' job satisfaction. Last but not least, work productivity will also have a negative impact. As such, fairness is the mediator in my hypothesis, as it is affected by the sign-on bonuses given to the new employees and have a negative impact on both job satisfaction and work productivity. The study method is to sample 500 hospitality workers who have worked in the company since April 2020, in which they were with the company during the pandemic. And the important criteria is to have witnessed a new employee join with a sign-on bonus. The study will be conducted in a semi-structured interview, and some example questions that will be asked are, was your company short of workers during the reopening of the company after the pandemic shutdown? Or do you think it is fair that new employees receive a sign-on bonus? Did your job satisfaction get affected after finding out? And do you think that you should also receive a bonus? There is a lack on how existing employees are affected with the adoption of sign-on bonus by the hospitality industry. And this research study can shed light on how the industry can adopt and implement new measures to satisfy their existing employees and to prevent labor shortages. This has been a presentation of my research study. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and now we'll give the judges a minute to score. Our next presenter is Keone Castellano with the effect of movement rates on the spread of infectious diseases. Keone is a PhD student in mathematics, working with Dr. Rashidi Salako. Go ahead, Keone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Keone Castellano, and I am an applied mathematician. As the months get colder, infectious illnesses such as the flu and the common cold, which can be seen in Figure 1, cause massive disruption to people's lives. Adults have to call off of work, and children have to stay home from school. But despite all of this, these diseases continue to spread and can be difficult to control. As an applied mathematician, I offer a different perspective towards a solution to this issue. I use mathematics to study the spread of infectious diseases using the model represented in Figure 2. In this model, we split the population into two groups: the susceptible group, represented by S, and the infected group, represented by I. The susceptible group are those that do not have the disease, but can be infected with the disease at rate beta, while the infected group are those that do have the disease, but can recover from the disease at rate gamma. I actually study a modified form of this model, which takes into account people's movement rates. You know, the rate in which we move from place to place and interact with the people around us. This model takes into account all of these different things to give us an idea of how we expect an infectious disease to behave under these conditions. I am particularly interested in two very different scenarios: persistence and extinction. Persistence is when, no matter how long you wait, there will always be an infected person in your population, and this is represented in Figure 3. So if we look at Figure 3, the y-axis represents the number of infected people, and the x-axis represents time. And looking at Figure 3, as time goes on, the number of infected people stays above 0. Extinction is the opposite effect, where if you wait long enough, eventually the disease will go away, and this is represented in Figure 4. So as time goes on, the number of infected people goes down to 0. Using the power of mathematical analysis, I can determine the precise set of conditions that drive a disease to extinction. For example, if your population size is small enough and you completely restrict the movement of the susceptible population, but let the infected population move freely, then the disease will be driven to extinction. So results like these can help give us an idea of how we expect an infectious disease to behave under a variety of different conditions so that we can keep people healthy during the cold and flu season, or perhaps even prevent the next pandemic from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, and now we'll give the judges a minute to score. Our final presenter is Andres Rodriguez Lombeda with Home Ownership as a Predictor of Political Participation. What is its impact on Hispanic voters? Andres is in the Public Affairs PhD program, working with Dr. Lee Bernick. Go ahead, Andres.
Hi, everyone. My topic is homeownership as a predictor of political participation. Specifically, what is its impact on Hispanic voters? I was first interested in this topic because of the large size of the Hispanic demographic. And I think the topic is even more relevant now when we are 1 week away from an election that may flip the majority from Democrats to Republicans in the US Congress. So, political participation is an important way for citizens to connect with their communities and with their governments. And throughout time, we've seen policies that encourage homeownership based on the grounds that homeowners make for better citizens. Fisher's home voter hypothesis claims that homeowners have a financial interest in the success of their community. But there's still a large question of whether the visibility and the size of the Hispanic demographic would lead to the political influence that its numbers command. My question for this study is, how does homeownership affect Hispanic voting? And my hypothesis is that homeownership increases Hispanic voting. This study is important because the demographics in our country and in our state are undergoing change. We see in Nevada that 28.7% of Nevadans are Hispanic. So Hispanics are a significant minority. To test my hypothesis, I looked at one zip code, 89102, and I obtained data from the Secretary of State records. I had a sample of 400 registered voters, which was divided into 4 groups: 100 Hispanic registered voters living in homes, 100 Hispanic registered voters living in apartments, 100 non-Hispanic registered voters living in homes, and 100 non-Hispanic registered voters living in apartments. It was determined whether a registered voter was Hispanic or not by matching their surname with a list of Hispanic surnames in the 2010 census. Homeownership was determined by matching a registered voter's name with property records information, and voting participation was determined by looking at the Secretary of State voting records for the 2020 election. The results are that Hispanic homeowners vote at a 61.5% rate compared to less than 50% for other groups. We also see that there is no difference when it comes to voting for renters, regardless of ethnic background and type of residency. And the findings of this study suggest that homeownership increases the likelihood of Hispanic voting. I've also been working on expanding this paper. I'm looking at it at a national level now, and I also want to use GIS in order to determine if there is any type of spatial autocorrelation. Thank you.
Thank you to all the presenters and for everyone joining us today. And a special thank you to the Grad Academy team that made this 3MT event possible. Now we're going to give the judges a few minutes to complete their scoring and submit them, and then we will announce winners live in just a few minutes. Thank you everyone for your patience. So while only the top 3 winners of this round will progress to the semifinals, you will all be winners of a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt, which you can get during the Rebel Grad Slam finals reception. So for the preliminary rounds, the first place winner receives $300, second place receives $200, and third place receives $100. So are you ready? Here are the winners for today's preliminary round. So in third place, Keone Castellano. Second place, Andres Rodriguez Lombeda. And first place, Karen Tidgewell. Congratulations to all of the winners, and thank you to all of the presenters, and thank you to all of the judges. So please join us for the semifinal round on Thursday, November 3rd at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1:30 p.m. in the Student Union Philip J. Cohen Theater, and the final round on Friday, November 4 at 4 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. Lastly, we'll have your Rebel Grad Slam t-shirts available then and in the Greenspun lobby. And I will paste a link to the RSVP for the event in the chat here. And just a big thank you again to all the presenters and all the judges and everyone joining us today. Have a great day.
Live.
Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Emily Lin and I'm the Associate Dean of the Graduate College. I am thrilled to welcome you to our 9th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3-minute thesis competition. The 3-minute thesis, or 3MT competition model, was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. It spread to other universities in Australia and New Zealand in 2009 and 2010. So by 2011, the 3MT competition phenomena had spread around the globe, and now more than 600 universities from more than 65 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held our first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam, and this year is our 9th annual Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are, what they study, why they study it, how they study it, what they found or expect to find, and why it matters to audiences of folks who are mostly outside of their field. It's an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills, and to also polish one's elevator speech describing what they study as graduate students. It's worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus and from a wide variety of disciplines. Some are first-year students, some are in their final years, and some slammers are master's students while others are advanced doctoral candidates. It's certainly a diverse pool of 80 graduate students competing here this week. So today, we have a group of UNLV graduate students who have been randomly assigned to compete in this preliminary session. Each will present their research in 3 minutes or less using just one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over 3 minutes, however, they will be eliminated from the competition. Slammers are encouraged to pace themselves and use their 3 minutes without going over. It's certainly not easy, but it's what the 3MT is all about. And just a few reminders for our slammers. Please make sure you keep your microphones on mute and video off when others are competing. Only turn on your microphone and video when you are presenting. Please be sure to also stay for the entire session, even after you've done your presentation. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature in WebEx in between presenters, but please don't use the chat while someone else is presenting, since it may be distracting to them. And while you're presenting, you may sit or you may stand, and if you choose to wear a mask, that's totally fine. The judges will not penalize you for doing so. Also, remember, you only have 2 minutes and 59 seconds and one chance to compete. And please keep an eye on the timer. The timer will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And once you begin speaking, we will start the timer and you will not be able to restart unless something beyond your control happens. Let's say you're presenting and your dog barks in the background. Just keep on presenting and please do not stop unless I stop you. And please don't worry though if you lose Wi-Fi or you're suddenly disconnected. Please just join back in. We'll wait a minute for you and then go back and then go on to the next presenter. And if that ever happens, we can redo your presentation at the end. Also, please remember that you may not read your presentation or use any notes on the screen or in front of you. Now let's take a moment to turn our attention to the scoring for this Research Rumble. The judges will be assessing the competitors based on metrics which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas, and they include comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor, and judges will not penalize competitors for wearing masks to present or for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of the presentation, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each grad slammer and announce the winners right here live today, this session. The top 3 in this session will advance to the semifinals. And I'd like to note that this round of the competition is happening live in WebEx and will be simultaneously aired live on the Graduate College's YouTube channel. And to give you a sense of this year's competition, we do have 80 students who are competing in the preliminary rounds, and around 36 of them will move on to the semifinals, and only about 9 will advance to the finals, which will happen this Friday, November the 4th at 4 p.m. So without further ado, let me introduce the judges, and then we'll get on with our 3MT Research Rumble. We do have a very distinguished panel of judges in today's session, and I just take a moment to briefly introduce them. We have today Dean Maggie Farrell of the libraries here at UNLV as one of our judges. Thank you, Maggie. And we do have Associate Dean of the Sciences, Andrew Anders, who is also a judge with us. Thank you, Andrew. We also have, as part of our judge panel, Robert Moretti, who is retired, but he is an alum of UNLV. He also sits on our Graduate College Dean's Leadership Council. So welcome, Robert, and thank you so much. We also have Assistant Professor Jenny Kent, who is in the Physical Therapy Department and from the School of Integrated Health Sciences. Thank you, Jenny, for participating today as a judge. And we also have Marty Bennett, who is the Director of Global Recruitment and Partnerships in our Academic Affairs Office. So thank you, Marty, for joining us. And thank you all for being doing the hard work, part of the hard work here in scoring all the presenters. So I guess we are ready to have our first slammer, and our first slammer is Lauren Crew. She will be presenting on hyperglycemia leads to lower delayed firing rates and increased reward modulated activity in the hippocampus in an Alzheimer's disease risk factor model. She is currently a PhD student in psychology, and her advisor is Dr. James Hyman. So whenever you are ready, Lauren, you can begin. Thank you.
Hello. All right. So my big question is, what can cause Alzheimer's disease? Well, diabetes is a common risk associated with the development of Alzheimer's disease. So I was curious to see if I would see any early stages of Alzheimer's disease in a rodent model of diabetes. To investigate this, I trained rats on a simple working memory task where they had to alternate between left and right choice arms following a variable short or long delay. Remembering which arm held the reward is dependent on the interactions between two brain areas, the anterior cingulate cortex, or the ACC, and the hippocampus, or the HPC. Following training, we then gave rats type 2 diabetes by injecting them with streptozotocin and or STZ as shown here on the slide. And then we implanted them with electrodes aimed at the ACC and hippocampus. Following surgical recovery, I then placed rats back into the task where I observed their behavior and recorded brain activity from both the ACC and hippocampus simultaneously while the animals performed the task. So behaviorally, I found that as the delay period increased, diabetic animals' performance accuracy decreased. This working memory impairment is similar to what we see in early stages of Alzheimer's disease. So what's going on in the brain? Well, first, I found that there was an increase in hyperphosphorylated tau, which is one of Alzheimer's disease major pathological hallmarks and is an early warning sign. Secondly, under normal circumstances, there is synchronized communication between the ACC and hippocampus in order to solve this task. However, here I show that there was actually an increase in this synchrony. The so-called hypersynchrony or too much communication is what we see in early stages of Alzheimer's disease. So this got me thinking, well, what's going on at the cellular level? Upon deeper inspection, I noticed that these neurons are firing less than those in healthy controls, not to mention the more pronounced firing towards the reward. Now, while it's not surprising to see decreased firing rate during moments of hypersynchrony, what is surprising is that we see these neurons are firing prior to the reward versus after the reward. So normally, healthy animals will solve this task by using a retroactive strategy, by utilizing previously learned information to make an accurate decision. However, this data suggests that these animals, these diabetic animals, are actually using a proactive strategy to solve this task, which is similar to what we see in early stages of Alzheimer's disease. So with that all being said, I show here that that biological and cognitive processes are indeed affected by diabetes, and that these impairments are similar to what we see in Alzheimer's, early stages of Alzheimer's disease, thus suggesting a significant relationship between diabetes and the development of Alzheimer's disease. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And at this time, I invite the judges to please do the scoring. Okay, we are now ready for our next slammer, who is going to be Benjamin Bishop, and he will be presenting on Nothing Venture, Nothing Gain. He is currently an MBA and Master of Science in Quant Finance program, and his advisor is Dr. Andrew Zhang. And whenever you are ready, Benjamin, you may start.
Well, thank you. And yes, I am Benjamin Bishop at the Lee Business School, getting my MBA and Master of Science in Quantitative Finance. And I'll advise you, it's as painful as it sounds. But anyway, so what am I studying? Well, I'm studying the venture capital industry. And the reason why is that the university also has its own student-run venture capital organization called the Rebel Venture Fund. And I'm the director there for deal flow. So that encompasses two areas. First, deal sourcing. I've got to go out and find these young founders and startups with their wonderfully optimistic idea of the next great business that they want to create. And we do an initial screen on them to figure out if it's passes the realm of possibility. And if so, then we invite them if we can conduct what's called a due diligence, to do a more thorough study on their business concept and idea and who they are. Is this going to fly? Now, you got to realize that the Rebel Venture Fund is what I call a two-bit player. We're not talking millions here, we're talking thousands. But still, there's lots of young startups that need help. So why am I studying it? Well, we got to figure out what characteristics can we find that actually show which firms will succeed. Now, if you look at the famous venture capital firms on Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley, who were most famous because they created the high-tech juggernaut out there by Stanford, their batting average isn't very good. When you talk to the leaders of the venture capital industry, even though they go into every deal with great optimism and hope, they're lucky if 1 in 10 hits a home run. Half of them fail outright. A couple of them barely break even. A couple do fair, they get 2-3 times, but still, their batting average is terrible. So I'm trying to figure out to help by looking through research of all the journal articles written and actually attending the firms and their conferences. What do they study? How do they figure it out? And we find out at the end of the day that it comes down to really 3 fundamental things. The first is this new business. What problem is it trying to solve? Because you got to solve a problem to go into business, and that's why people will hire your product or service. The second, what is your solution? And what business model have you got to accomplish this solution to the problem? And then the third one is we've got to look at the person. It really comes down to the people, the founders that are going to create this company. Do they have the talent to pull it off and make it happen? Do they have the experience, the skills, the drive, the optimism to keep going? Anyway, so why this matters is we want to help these young firms to succeed. And that's what we do at the Rebel Venture Fund. It's not only for the students, but to help the founders. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. And at this time, I will ask the judges to please do the scoring. Okay, I believe Christian is not able to participate this session. So judges, would you please at this point just skip over the form for Christian? And we will then move on to our next slammer. Okay, and our next slammer is Sylvia and Nia Sega, and she is going to be presenting on sexual harassment in the workplace. She is currently a PhD student in public affairs program, and her advisor is Jessica Word. And when she begins speaking, we will start the timer. So whenever you're ready, Sylvia, please go ahead.
Sylvia, just to let you know, we can't hear you or see you. Just make sure to turn on your camera and your microphone. We'll give you a few seconds. Sylvia, I can see you now. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready.
As soon as you start, we'll start the timer.
Okay. Can I start?
Yes.
How dare you say no to me? Do you know I can have you fired? Oh, madam, please understand. Forgive me. Please give me some time. I'm still thinking about it. This is the unfortunate story that happens all the time in workplaces. And it doesn't matter whether the superior is the man or a woman, but there is sexual harassment in the workplace. And these words have been said to many an employee in so many workplaces. Unfortunately, it happens behind closed doors and no one ever gets to know about it. The problem of sexual harassment has been around for a very long time. And the United States government took it so seriously that among the civil rights, in Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights, they tried to find remedies for sexual harassment in the workplace by enforcing Title VII, which was supposed to protect employees from sexual harassment. Unfortunately, this vice goes on and on and on and on. And despite so many studies being carried out to tame it, it still goes on and it remains persistent. So my research intends to find remedies, to understand how sexual harassment can be calmed, how this vice can really come to an end. And my research intends to answer the question of how hierarchical relations in the workplace are contributing to sexual harassment, and to find remedies for the same, so that in future we can create an environment that is safe for everybody, both male and female employees, to pursue their dreams, build their careers in workplaces very safe and free of sexual harassment by superiors. We must note that superiors should be the ones to put in place policies that should curb sexual harassment. But as we stand right now, most of them are perpetrators harassing their junior workers. So I hope that my research will help put in place measures that can bring an end to this vice, that can attempt to put us in normal and straight environment in workplaces so that people can pursue their dreams and careers without fear or intimidation, but feeling.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. And at this time, judges, would you please do the scoring? Thanks. Okay, and our last slammer for this session is David King, and he will be presenting on Shine Bright Like a Salt, the secret potential of berylliums. He is currently a PhD student in the chemistry department program, and he is advised by Dr. Pradeep Vongamik. And whenever you are ready, David, you may begin, please.
Okay, so today I'll be talking about salts. So it's not the salt that you put on your food, and it's not the salt that you take baths with, but it's a novel organic ionic salt that has very special light emission properties. So pyrroliums have been studied in the past 100 years for their utility in organic chemistry to make other molecules or even just to make the molecule and see if we can use it in any drug synthesis. However, the secret potential of these pyrrolium salts have not been investigated to its full potential. And so these pyrrolium salts can be used in light emission studies as a fluorescence fluorophore. So fluorescence is the act of a molecule to shine light in under UV light. And this can be used in biomedical application to diagnose certain diseases, even cell staining to view certain organelles under a microscope. And not only that, these pyrroliums can also be used in pressure sensing. So these pyrrolium salts have a bunch of multiple applications and potential for consumer applications and industrial applications. And my thesis is based on synthesizing more of these pyrrolium salts and investigating their use in their specialized use in these applications. So basically synthesizing a pyrrolium salt that can be used in a high pressure system and tuning the pyrrolium salt core structure to make it the best at what it does. So in this case, sensing pressure. And another one of my goals for my thesis is to synthesize a pyrrolium salt that can not only undergo laser action, but also lays in water. Right now, dyes are very difficult to dissolve in water, and they're usually dissolved in other organic solvents. However, it would be a breakthrough in laser sciences to synthesize a pyrrolium salt that can be dissolved in water and undergo laser action for advanced material applications. And we can see on the slide, there's the cell staining of the pyrrolium salt and the beautiful light emission that these molecules undergo. Not to mention that these pyrrolium salts are also very cheap and easy to make, so they can be upscaled for industrial use very easily. Thank you for listening to my 3-minute talk.
Thank you so much, David. And while the judges are scoring for David, I'm just going to really share a note of gratitude and thank yous for all of you, both judges and competitors, for joining us during this preliminary round. A special thanks to our Graduate Academy team who have made this 3MT event possible. They've really worked hard all week to make sure that these sessions go well. Now, I would like for you to all stay tuned as we will announce the winners of this session live in just a few minutes, while only the top 3 winners will go on to progress in the semifinals. Please note, Slammers, that you are all winners and you will receive a grad Slam t-shirt that we will be able to distribute during our Rebel Grad Slam finals receptions. And for those who do advance to the semifinals, for the first place winners, you'll get $600. For the second place winners, they will receive $400, while the third place winner will receive $200. So I have pasted in the chat for RSVPs to pick up your t-shirts. And we'll just spend a little time right now for our team to tally up the scores while the judges finish up all their scoring. So I'll be back in just a few moments after we have tally up everything. Stay tuned, please. Okay, are you ready? We've kept you in suspense long enough. And so we are ready. We've tallied up all the final scores. And here are the results. Third place winner for this session, congratulations, Benjamin Bishop. You are advancing to the semifinals. And now for the second place slammer in this session, it's going to be Lauren Krug. Congratulations, Lauren. You're advancing to the semifinals. And our first place winner for this session is David King. Congratulations, David. Now, you are also advancing. So thanks again for your participation, everyone. You know you are all winners still. Please join us for that semifinals round on Thursday, November the 3rd at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1:30 p.m. in the Student Union. Philip Cohen Theater, and also the finals this Friday, November the 4th at 4 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. So I have pasted already in the chat the link to RSVP. Remember, you can pick up your Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt for all of you who participated today. That's going to be during the finals at the receptions at 5 p.m. in the Greenspun lobby. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and congrats. Have a great day and take care. Bye-bye.
Dr. Lin,
Yes.
I apologize. Could you please repeat the placements one more time?
Yes. David, you place first.
Oh, thank you so much.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Emily Lin, and I'm the Associate Dean of the Graduate College. I am so thrilled to welcome you to our 9th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3-minute thesis competition. The 3-minute thesis competition, or the 3MT competition model, was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. It spread to other universities in Australia and New Zealand in 2009 and 2010. And by 2011, the 3MT competition phenomena had spread around the globe, and now more than 600 universities from more than 65 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held our first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam, and this year is our 9th annual Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are, what they study, why they study it, how they study it, and what they found or expect to find, and why it matters to an audience of folks who are mostly outside their field. It's an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills, and also to polish one's elevator speech describing what they study as graduate students. It's worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus and from a wide range of disciplines. Some are first-year students, while some are in their final years, and some slammers are master's students, while others are advanced doctoral candidates. It's really a diverse pool of 80 graduate students competing here this week. So today, we have a group of UNLV graduate students who have been randomly assigned to compete in this preliminary round. Each will present their research in 3 minutes or less using one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over 3 minutes, they will be eliminated from the competition, unfortunately. Slammers are encouraged to pace themselves and use their 3 minutes without going over. It's really not easy, but it's what the 3MT is all about. So just a few reminders for our slammers to please make sure to keep your microphones on mute and videos off when other competitors are presenting, and only turn on your microphones and videos when you are presenting. Please be sure to stay for the entire session even after you've presented. And if you have any questions, you may use the chat feature, but would you please do so in between the presenters so that you're not distracting the ones who are presenting. When you are presenting, you may sit or stand, or if you choose to, you may also wear a mask. The judges will not penalize you for doing so. Remember, you only have 2 minutes and 59 seconds and 1 chance to compete. Please keep an eye on the timer. The timer is going to appear in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And once you begin speaking, we will start the timer and you will be unable to restart. Unless, something beyond your control happens. Let's say you're presenting and the dog barks in the background. Please just continue presenting and please do not stop unless I stop you. And don't worry if you lose Wi-Fi or you become disconnected. Please just join back in. We'll wait a few minutes for you and then go on to our next presenter. And if this happens, you can redo your presentation at the end. And finally, please remember that you may not read your presentation or use any notes on the screen or in front of you. Now let's turn our attention for a moment to the scoring for this research rumble. The judges will be assessing the competitors based on 4 metrics, which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas, which include comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor, and judges will not penalize competitors for wearing masks to present or for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of the presentation, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each grad slammer and announce the winners right here live this session. The top 3 finishers of this session will advance to the semifinals. I'd like to note that this round of the competition is happening live right now in WebEx and also simultaneously aired live on the Graduate College YouTube channel. And to give you a sense of this year's competition, we do have 80 students who are competing in the preliminary rounds, and around 36 will move on to the semifinals, and only about 9 will advance to the finals. And the finals will happen this Friday, November the 4th at 4 p.m. So without further ado, let me introduce the judges, and then we'll get on with our 3MT Research Rumble. We have here today, we're so honored to have a set of very distinguished judges in our session today. And let me introduce you to them. We have first Professor Samuel Song, who is a professor in the Counselor Education School Psychology and Human Resources Department in the College of Education. We also have Associate Director Victoria Mitchell from the Lee Business School. And we also have Dayanara Gautiot, who is also a campus relationship specialist in the Office of Admissions. And we do have Dr. Jennifer Stevens, who's a part-time instructor in the sociology department from the College of Liberal Arts. And we have Executive Director of Business and Finance, Brianne Heinley, who we're very familiar with from the Graduate College. And she currently works in the Office of Executive Vice President and Provost in the Academic Affairs Office. And we also have on our judges panel, Raphael Oganesian, who is a program manager in the Office of Undergraduate Research. So thank you so much, judges, for taking the time to do all the hard work today in this competition. So thank you so much. And I believe now we are ready to begin the competition with our first presenter. And it's going to be Sai Kandra Kosarharu, and Sai will be presenting on artificial intelligence in cancer diagnosis. Sai is currently a PhD student in computer science and working with Dr. Mingong Kang. So whenever you are ready, Sai, you may begin.
Yeah, I can start. Is that audible?
Go ahead, Sai, and we'll start the timer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As soon as you start talking, we will start the timer.
Okay. So today I'm going to present about my thesis, the artificial intelligence in cancer diagnosis. So the cancer is the second most disease contributing to deaths in the USA. Every year there are 6,000 patients dying because of cancer. According to the healthcare survey, we have 1 out of 3 patients were dying because of the misclassified or late classification of cancer. Why? Because we have a shortage in pathologists. Over in USA itself, we have 5,700 pathologist shortage. From 2007 to 17, we have 18% drop in the pathologist, and which indeed increases 42% workload for them. So note that average age of pathologist now is 50. So in future, we'll have more and more shortage. Even though we combat that shortage, we'll have if we do that manually, we'll have a more labor intensive and time consuming process. So as a data scientist, what we can do to help the patients and medical experts or pathologists, we can, thanks to the artificial intelligence and digitalization of whole slide images, we can build AI tools to help the medical experts. Now, the challenges here are generally the cancer is diagnosed using the biopsy image. Biopsy image is a tissue image which will be cut from the human tissue and analyzed under a microscope. But the biopsy images are very huge, which are like 10,000 gigapixels, and we cannot use a generalized method for that. So now we have to build some sophisticated methods to combat this situation. Since the WS images are very huge, the researchers came up with the idea called cropping multiple images from the same slide of fixed image and fixed magnifications. So we made a few contributions to the diagnosis systems. First one is a CatNet. In CatNet, we used diluted CNNs to improve the performance by eliminating the CNNs to increase the field of view. We achieved a great performance, but the issue is if we showed that to the pathologist, they told the evaluation of the cancer regions within the small patch is very difficult all the times. So we came up with the idea called Deep Hippo. In Deep Hippo, we'll have the 2 patches at the same time. Then each patch will have global and local information for the both. By that, we are good, but for applications such as survival or subtype, we cannot have a multiple patch predictions at the same time. We need a slide-based code. So we came up with the idea called HippoMap, which is a graphical representation of each slide, which can have a multiple only one score. And also we included the genomic and human data using the PageNet, and we also predict the protein rearrangements using the DeepHippo v2. With all this advancement, we are going to save some patients in future. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sai. And at this time, I'm going to invite the judges to do the scoring, please. Okay, now our next slammer is San Diego Teller, and San Diego is going to be presenting on developing a biofortified and climate-smart rice for a hungry world. San Diego is currently a PhD candidate in biological sciences and working with his advisor, Dr. Jeffrey Shea. So whenever you are ready, San Diego, please go ahead.
What's the one thing that we have all in common? It's food. We need it. We enjoy it, and it brings us together. But right now, with the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, accessing affordable and nutritious food has become more and more difficult around the world. So imagine the last time you got hungry. You want food, but what if you don't have the means or don't even have access to this nutritious food? This is what we call food insecurity. As a plant molecular biologist, my goal is to find solutions to the challenges of food insecurity. I study genes that make plants more resistant to diseases, tolerant to stresses, and even more nutritious. I work on rice, which is a staple food for more than half of the world's population. So aside from the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, we have three long-standing challenges in front of us. First, population is growing. And second, with this increasing population comes the increasing demand for food. Currently, the global rice consumption is 65 kilograms per person per year. In the US, it's 30 kilograms. In Japan, it's 35 kilograms. And in the Philippines, where I came from, which is a less developed country, it's 117 kilograms. In Indonesia, it's 135 kilograms. And in Myanmar, it is 230 kilograms per person per year. So what do you notice? You notice that the poorer the country is, the greater their demand for rice as their calorie source. And alongside with these challenges is the predicted climate effects, the predicted negative effects of climate change. And to meet these demands of the growing population and to adapt to the challenges of climate change, we need to produce more rice. And not only more rice, but produce more nutritious variety and produce climate resilient crops. So keeping this in mind, by genetically engineering a single gene called Werky, we have produced a rice plant with increased germination rates that can even germinate in stressful conditions such as cold and salt. And amazingly, this rice plant has improved nutritional components such as increased vitamin B5. I know that food insecurity is not just a scientific issue to solve, but a political one. But we have a bigger issue to solve right now. So with these scientific innovations, we need to do everything we can so that we can alleviate human suffering. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Santiago. And right now, I am going to ask our judges to do the scoring, please. Okay, our next slammer is Ing Kai, and Ing is going to be presenting on responding to needs of minoritized student restorative justice practices in schools. Ing is a doctoral candidate in the School of Psychology and working with Dr. Samuel Song. And whenever you are ready, Ing, you may begin.
Imagine coming to work and there are metal detectors. Imagine being fired because you had a bad day. How would you feel? Similarly, how would you feel if something like that happened to your children and loved ones in schools? The civil rights data shows that more than 60% of the students who receive harsh punishment like suspension were Black and brown students. This picture on the left reminds me of negative comments that made me question myself as a person of color. Similarly, how will minoritized students learn and thrive in an environment that labels them as incapable, lazy, and defiant? Unfortunately, the sad reality is that minoritized students often get pushed out by schools to the juvenile system. Therefore, I became passionate about researching a better method that views and respects minoritized students as capable, intelligent, and resilient. Then I discovered a different method to support minoritized students: restorative justice in education. Restorative justice in education is a culturally inclusive vision of education with roots in indigenous community. There are three major components of restorative justice in education that guide restorative practices, which are bringing justice and equity into a learning environment, building positive relationships, and repairing harms and learning from conflict. The current research shows that restorative practices receive positive feedback from school communities. However, results were mixed, mainly because schools viewed and implemented restorative practices differently. There were other unknown reasons. Therefore, my research focuses on investigating the reasons by looking at the implementation of restorative practices in K-12 schools. I am conducting a systematic literature review following the PRISMA guideline, and my preliminary findings are restorative practices are used by schools differently, and some schools did not follow the paradigm of restorative justice in education, and these altered practices may hinder students from achieving their full potential. My review is unique because it will inform schools about restorative practices that align with the principles and values of restorative justice in education and the effects of these practices on minoritized students. Restorative justice in education is an emerging field that needs more research to show its beauty and effectiveness. I hope to use my research to take a step forward to advance my journey in advocating for minoritized students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I believe I'm going to ask the judges to do the final scoring for Ying. And while they are doing that, I am going to, first of all, thank you all for joining us in this preliminary round. I'd like to extend a special thank you to our Graduate Academy team who worked really, really hard this week to put everything together and who's made this 3MT event possible. So thank you so much to our team. For now, please stay tuned because we will be announcing the winners live in just a few minutes. While only the top 3 winners of this round and will progress to the semifinals, and I thank you all. We only have the competitors 3 here. All of you will also get a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt along for your participation here. And you can pick your grad slam t-shirt up during the finals at the reception area. And I am going to also inform you that for the semifinals round that's coming up for you, the first place winners will get $600, while the second place winners will get $400. And then the third place winner will get $200. And I've just pasted a link in the chat area if you want to RSVP in terms of when whether you're going to pick up your t-shirt. You can do so there while we are waiting for the final tally for the placement of this round. So please stay tuned and hang on, and we'll just return in just a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, all of you, I guess are just sitting on pins and needles waiting to hear where you place in today's session. So I'll start off with congratulations to the three of you. You're all advancing to the semifinals. And the third place winner for today's session was Sai Kosaraju with congratulations, you're moving on to the semifinals. The second place winner for this session is Inkai. Congratulations, Ing. And you are also moving on to the semifinals. And of course, our first place winner for this session is San Diego Betteller. Congratulations, you're also moving on. So thank you again for competing, Slammers. Thank you so much, judges, for coming in to do the hard work and scoring our competitors. Please join us for the semifinals round. That'll be happening this Thursday. That's tomorrow, November the 3rd at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1:30 p.m. in the Student Union Philip Cohen Theater. And remember, the finals take place this Friday, November the 4th at 4 p.m. in the Greenspun Auditorium. And lastly, we do have your Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt there at the finals reception area in the Greenspun lobby at 5 p.m. And I've shared the link with you. So, and I see Nev has indicated that your semifinal schedule will be distributed really soon, so hang on for that. Again, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great evening. Please take care.